You're listening to the School Leadership Reimagined podcast, episode 319. How do builders like us make a dramatic difference in the lives of our students in spite of all the obstacles we face? How do you keep your vision for your school from being held hostage by resistant teachers, uncooperative parents, ridiculous district policies, or a lack of time, money, or resources? If you're facing those challenges right now, here's where you'll find the answers, strategies, and actionable tips you need to overcome any obstacle you face. You don't have to wait to make a difference in the lives of the people you serve. You can turn your school into a success story right now with the people and resources you already have. Let's get started. Hey builders, welcome to another episode of the School Leadership Reimagined podcast. I'm your host, Robyn Jackson, and this week our team is out on break, but I didn't want to leave you hanging, so I went back into the archives and I found one of my favorite episodes. This is a hidden gem, and it's all about how all of our staff alignment problems really just have one source. And so all the things that we do, all the challenges that we have with people, the people we work with, the people we supervise, there's really only one root problem to that. And this is such a great insight that I want to share it with you again. So we're going to do a rewind all the way back to episode 192 today to talk about what's at the root cause of all of your people problems. And if you are dealing with people problems right now, or you're still recovering from the people problems you were dealing with throughout the year, I've got something really cool coming up. I can't tell you about it just yet, but just know that you want to be paying attention, reading the emails I'm sending you in the next couple of weeks, because we're going to be launching something really, really cool. So that's all I can say right now. For now, enjoy this rewind episode, and I will be back with you next week with another brand new episode. Enjoy this episode. When you're dealing with people, it is tough. There just aren't, the things that we were taught to do just don't work in a lot of cases. And I don't know about you, but whenever I deal with these people challenges, a lot of times I used to my stomach would be all up in knots. I would get stressed out. I'd go home and eat dinner and barely taste my food. I'd be dreading going to work the next day when I had to have this awful meeting with someone who was just, really hated my guts. And it can be so stressful. But once I learned these techniques and strategies, those things are not stressful to me anymore. I have a plan on how to deal with it. And so when I see stuff come up, I have a way to deal with it. And I want you to have the same thing. So again, if you want to still join the challenge, go ahead and you can sign up and join the Facebook group and do that for the accelerator throughout. But if you haven't had a chance to do that and that feels a little overwhelming to you, you've got this one shot, this 2-hour masterclass that's happening on Monday, and you can get so much goodness from it. I'm going to be teaching something on Monday that I've never taught before. We have created a new tool that I'm so excited to share with you. And so you'll get that on Monday, and you'll get the download of that workbook, but only if you show up live. And that workbook is gold because it gives you the frameworks and the templates that you need to use to immediately apply. So you want to show up live. It's Monday, January 30th at 7 p.m. And you go to buildershipuniversity.com/accelerator and you'll be signed up. Okay. Now let's talk about something that I've been seeing happening in schools that I work with, in some of the principal groups that I'm a part of. I'm seeing questions like this. I saw a question the other day. I have a teacher who refuses to adhere to the dress code. What do I do? I saw something else. I have these 2 teachers who refuse to do anything that I ask them to do, and I'm having a meeting with them tomorrow. Should I write them up, or how do I handle it when they just keep causing all of this trouble in my schools? I've seen things where people are saying my teachers are burned out. They're overwhelmed. They only want to do the work to rule. They don't want to do anything extra anymore. They complain about everything that we're doing. And how do I overcome this? I've seen people write in about, listen, my teachers have complained to my superintendent or to my boss, and now my boss is calling me in, and I've done everything I can to support them, and yet they're still complaining, and I feel betrayed and I'm frustrated. I've seen things like I did something really nice for teachers when they came back. I made pancakes. I had t-shirts and bags for them. And several teachers left the bags that I created for them on the tables, or I found some in the trash. And I'm just devastated because I work so hard to support them and they don't appreciate me. I've seen things like, I'm really struggling to get my math team on board. They have one idea about what they should do, and they're kind of stuck in what they've always done, and they refuse to move forward, and our math scores are really low. How do I get my math team on board? Now, all of those issues, when I see them kind of posted online or in forums, or people are asking questions and I hear the answers to those issues, each of those issues is treated as if they are separate issues. So people say, when you have a teacher who doesn't adhere to the dress code, you need to do this. But if you have a teacher who is being toxic, you need to do that. And if you have a teacher who refuses to do what you're asking them to do, you need to do this. And if you have a team that refuses to do what you're asking them to do, you should do that. And if you have a group of teachers who aren't showing you appreciation, you should do that. And they act as if all of those are separate problems. Well, I want to posit to you today that those are not all separate problems. They're all the same problem, and they all have the same solution. The problem is that you do not have alignment in your staff. And the solution is you need to get alignment. So let's talk about the problem and solution and how it works, because I don't want to oversimplify it. I know what it feels like to go through this and to carry this home with you, carry it over the weekend, the stress that comes with it, because you're working really, really hard to move your school forward. And it feels like you're getting beat down at every turn. Like you have all this pressure above you from central office about what you need to do to move your school. You have this pressure coming at you from either side, parents on one side, teachers complaining from the other side. And it just feels like you're being squeezed all over the place. And it can feel very frustrating and demoralizing when you're doing this and you run into these people issues. But here's the thing. Every people problem is really a process problem. And if you try to solve each of these things individually, it's because you don't have a process for dealing with people problems. So here's how we were trained, right? So when people don't do what we ask them to do, what are our options? We can write them up, right? So we could go do that. And guess what? Writing people up has never resulted in a kumbaya moment in your school. When you write people up, all you do is you increase their resentment. You make them more entrenched. They go and talk about you to other people. I can't believe so-and-so wrote me up. At the best, you may get compliance out of those people, but you don't get full investment and cooperation. And in many cases, you damage the relationship, right? Okay, so we could write people up. The next thing we can do is we could try to talk to them. And so that's why you have entire industries around how to have those conversations, crucial conversations and courageous conversations and critical conversations and, all these different conversational frameworks. And sometimes they work, but a lot of times they don't. I mean, how many times have you ever gone in with a conversational framework to sit down and talk to someone, and you started and then they say something that completely derails the framework, and then where do you go? You're left with nothing. Now, that doesn't mean that conversational frameworks are wrong. I have a whole book called Strategic Conversations that talks about conversational frameworks. But those conversational frameworks have to be anchored in something. And in order for them to work, there has to be an agreement between you and the teacher ahead of time about how we deal with each other. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what framework you try to use. Somebody could just upend that framework in a conversation. I've seen it happen. It's happened to me where I've tried to walk in and I feel really confident and I'm sitting there going through my little script, and then the teacher says something that's off script or says something that frankly gets under my skin, and then all of a sudden conversation script has gone out the window. I mean, has that ever happened to you where you think you're going to go into a conversation one way, you've got it all kind of mapped out in your head, and then the teacher says something and everything is up for grabs? You're just starting from scratch because the script wasn't prepared to deal with something else, because the script, you bought into what the script says. You bought into the unwritten rules of engagement that are kind of embedded in that script. Your teacher hasn't done that. So it's not that you don't that a script isn't helpful. But if the script isn't anchored in something else, the script will often fail you. Okay, so we can write them up. We can try to bring them in and have a conversational script. We can try to win them over. So a lot of times, you'll get advice that says, hey, you need to do more work at establishing relationships with your teachers first. And so you go by their classrooms and you ask about their cats, and you try to give them a mug and with some pencils in it and say thank you for all that you do. But if the relationship is breaking or broken, your mug is not going to fix it. Right? If a teacher is already angry with you, or the teacher doesn't feel like you are on their side and they've already worked up a case against you, it's not going to be healed because you bought them a t-shirt and a bag. That's why teachers don't seem to appreciate the things that we're doing to them, because doing for them, not to them, but they don't seem to appreciate it because, again, it's not anchored in anything. It feels like a bribe. It feels insufficient to deal with the issues that they're trying to deal with. And so it almost feels like you didn't hear me, and instead you think this little mug is going to make me happy. That's how some teachers feel. So it can often fail you, especially if there's already toxicity in the culture, especially if there's a break in the relationship already. It's not going to get fixed with a mug. It's not going to get fixed with donuts in the staff lounge. It's not going to get fixed with coffee delivered to their classrooms. Those things, if I feel like you're already overworking me, if I feel like you're not listening to me, that feels like an insult, like a slap in the face. You think that my issues, which are very real to me, are going to be solved because you bought a 30 pack of Swiss Miss hot chocolate and you put a water kettle in the staff lounge? Oh no. So we're taught, hey, we should write them up. We're taught, hey, we should have these conversations. We're taught, hey, let's try to win them over with some swag and some gifts. And they all fail us. The last thing we try to do is we try to convince people, right? So we go and try to make a case for why it is we want them to do something. And while it makes perfect sense to us, while we can see the value of what it is we're asking them to do for kids, we've thought it through, we've looked at the data, we've gone to the conference and heard the speakers, we know it will work. In our hearts, we know it will work. Just because you believe it doesn't mean your teachers are going to believe it. And they won't even be able to hear you if they're stuck in a place where all they can see are the challenges ahead of them. And the more you try to convince them under those circumstances, the more they push back. And then the last thing we are told to do is just, forget them, get rid of them, because we got to move forward for the kids. It's got to be right for the kids. The kids deserve this. We can't get mired in adult problems. And so it's this forget them attitude. And I'd like to ask people who actually apply that, how's that working for you? What it does is it keeps you more and more isolated, right? You start to just be this lone person trying to drag your school forward, and people become more and more entrenched because I'm going to work around them. I'm going to do it without them. You can't do it without them. You need your teachers. You need your staff. And every time you try to just forge ahead and just force this thing through, you create resistance when there wasn't any resistance before. Like maybe your teachers would have, in the right circumstances, gone along with what it is that you said, seen the logic in what it is you were trying to do. But the moment you try to force people, you create resistance, right? You just start dragging people along, and it's exhausting to you. I've seen administrators do this where they just try to force an idea through and they work really hard. And do you know that there are 127 different ways that people can sabotage your work when they don't buy into it? They can give you all the lip service you want. Maybe under the best circumstances, you get compliance and you force it through. At the end of the year, you're exhausted. And the moment you stop pulling, the thing dies. Because if you're forcing it through, the success and failure of whatever it is you're forcing through depends on your continuing to force. If you get tired, if you get exhausted, if you let up for a second, it dies because you're the only one pulling. One of the reasons why we are doing the Staff Alignment Accelerator is because I'm so frustrated with bad advice out there. From something as simple as a teacher is not adhering to a dress code to something major, like there's some major toxicity going on in your school. Everybody wants to give their own opinion, and it's do this, write this person up, have this conversation with them, buy him a sweatshirt, do all these things as if all of these problems were separate problems. And so you wear yourself out trying to apply all these various pieces of advice and treating all these problems as if they're all different when really you only have one problem. At the heart of it, you have one problem. You have a lack of alignment. Because when you have a lack of alignment, everybody's doing, in many cases, what they believe is their best, but their best may be pointed this way and that way and the other way, and they're not pointed to where you want to go as a school. And so when you get alignment, you create a baseline for everybody's behavior. Let me give an example. When you create alignment, and the way that I argue you should create alignment is you go back to your vision, mission, and core values, right? Those are the most important things. Now, during the Staff Alignment Accelerator this week, we are not getting into vision, mission, and core values. We did a vision challenge in the fall where you're getting your vision together. If you want more support about your vision, we'll continue to do that. But the first thing you need is you need a vision, a mission, and a set of core values that everybody believes in. In Buildership University, we show you how to do the entire process. And trust me, the process takes time. And a lot of people say, well, look, I need alignment now because we're trying to get through the rest of this year. Good luck. Because if you don't spend the time to create true alignment, then all you're doing is dragging people through the vision, mission, and core values. The way you're trying to drag people through everything else, it doesn't work. You've got to invest the time. But when you do that, you create alignment that pays off in dividends later on. So first thing is you've got to have a baseline. And this is why this is so important. The vision says, here's where we're going as a school. And if you get agreement around that, if everybody is invested in the same direction, then you don't have to argue with people about this or that or the other. And people don't have to argue with you about what they're trying to do. The only question you have to ask is, will this help us achieve our vision? No, we're not doing it. Yes? All right, let's consider it. Let's talk about how we do it. But it creates a binary that makes decision-making so much easier. And it helps people understand when you're in this school, this is what we're building. This is why we're here. And as you're recruiting new people, they buy into the vision before they ever come to your school. So it gets easier and easier. The culture shifts. Everything is aligned towards that vision. So when I go to talk to teachers about something that I want to happen in their classroom, I'm not going in because I went to a conference or read a book or I have a personal preference about how their classroom should be run. I'm not even telling them step by step how to do it unless that's what they need. I can be stubborn on the vision and flexible around the details because I have clarity around that vision. So I can go into teachers and say, hey, listen, here's our vision. Here's where we are right now. In order to get to the next step, here's what we need to have happen in classrooms. Is that something that we can make happen? What do we need to do to help you do that? Now, during the Staff Alignment Accelerator, one of the things we're doing is we're coming in and we're saying, okay, what do I want teachers to do before the year ends? Not 3 years from now or whatever, like a big vision. We're being very practical. Before the year is up, what is it that I want my teachers to do and why do I want them to do it? Once you have clarity around that, then we're going to say, okay, how do I help my teachers do that? What are the 4 things that I need to be doing right now to get all teachers on board with doing this thing that I want them to do before the year is up? It becomes very simple. So now I'm not having individual arguments about personal teaching styles. I'm not having individual arguments about the direction. We have agreement about where we're headed as a school, and it makes the other ask that I'm going to be asking of teachers so much easier, because as long as I can demonstrate how this thing I'm asking you to do is going to move us towards our vision, and as long as everything that I am doing is in alignment with that vision, then I don't have a whole bunch of pushback in the same way that a lot of you are experiencing right now, because we have clarity around the vision. Second thing is you need a mission. The mission is why. And the mission modifies the vision, right? So if I say I want everybody on grade level, why do I want everybody on grade level? Do I want them on grade level so I can win an award? No. Do I want them on grade level so that they can have better opportunities later on? Do I want them on grade level so that they can think more critically and rigorously? The reason why helps decide how I do my work. So when I have a teacher come in and say, hey, I want to get them on grade level by giving them the answers to the test, I can say, hey, listen, First of all, that's illegal. But second of all, that doesn't align with our mission. If they get on grade level, but they don't get on grade level in a way that helps them become independent thinkers, which is what our mission is, then we're doing it wrong. So now you've empowered teachers to make better decisions, even when you're not in the room, even when you're not looking, because you've given them, here's where we're headed, and here's why we're headed this way. So now you can trust the decisions that the teachers are making. And then also the teachers can trust you more because they know that every decision you make is going to be in alignment with that vision and that mission for the work. And so it creates this line of communication, this baseline, right? And then the last one is core values. The core values say, if we're going to get there, this is how we get there. These are the things that have to be non-negotiable for us. And even though they feel very simple when I talk about them, going through the core values process is one of the most valuable things you can do to create alignment in your staff. Because once everybody agrees that those things are non-negotiable, it becomes a real quick conversation, right? So that teacher who's not dressing according to dress code, is the way the teacher is dressing getting in the way of our vision, our mission, or our core values? If the answer is no, you don't address it. It's because that's personally bothering you, but it's not impacting the vision, mission, and core values. If it is impacting the vision, mission, and core values, you now have a baseline on what you can stand to have that conversation, because it's not about, I don't like the fact that I can see your thong above your leggings, or I don't like the fact that you're wearing bedroom slippers, or I don't like the fact that, you are wearing the same sweater every day and it's all stained with coffee, or whatever the issue is around the teacher's dress, right? Instead of it being a dress code issue and an argument about what is appropriate or inappropriate based on whoever's opinion it is, it becomes something about the vision, mission, and core values. And you've already gotten agreement on that. When you're sitting down and you're trying to figure out what kind of support can I do for teachers who are feeling overwhelmed, instead of just randomly like going into a Facebook group and say, hey, what ideas do y'all have for Staff Appreciation Week? You can give them things that really reinforce the vision, the mission, and the core values of the school. And those gifts become more meaningful because they're anchored in something that the staff has already identified as meaningful and core to who we are, to our identity as a school. When you have a group of teachers who are refusing to do something, or you have a group of teachers who are causing trouble, you can bring them in, and instead of saying, hey, you're causing trouble, you can say, listen, the behavior that you're exhibiting right now is not in alignment with our vision, mission, and core values. So we have a decision to make. Either you need to adjust your behavior, or we need to come together as a staff and adjust our vision, mission, and core values. Which one is it? You see, when you create alignment, the work gets simple. It gets simple because you don't have to come up with an individual answer for every challenge you might potentially face in the future. Instead, there's always one answer. You always go back and you anchor in that. And then this is where the sweet spot happens. And this is the Staff Alignment Accelerator. This is what we're doing this week. Once you have that anchor, you can put systems in place that actually support that anchor so that the problems that we talked about at the beginning of this episode, they don't crop up at all. And so that's what we're doing during the accelerator. We're saying, okay, hey, what is it you want people to do by the end of the year? And then what systems can you put in place to ensure that everybody does it? And on the masterclass on Monday, I'm going to be talking about not only that, but let's get to why your staff isn't aligned to begin with, right? Where are the weak spots in the alignment in your school? And how do we shore up those weak spots? What are the systems we need to put in place to address those weak spots so you don't have to deal with this at all? And how do we put those systems in place in a way that helps get everybody focused on doing the right work and keeps people from being distracted by all of this other nonsense? Because that's what it is. It's nonsense. It is something that has crept into your culture because there's a vacuum there. So nature abhors a vacuum, right? In the absence of strong alignment around a vision, mission, and core values, you create this hole, and the hole is a perfect spot for toxicity. And so you got to treat your school the way you treat your house. One of the things you do is you go around your house every year and you get rid of all the holes so that rats and rodents and other vermin don't get into your house. When you create alignment, that process is like walking around your school and filling in all the holes so that toxicity and nastiness and insurrection and disagreements and ugliness don't have a chance to creep into your culture. And so, I'm going to repeat my invitation. On Monday, we're going to be talking about this in more detail. I'm going to be showing you what you need to be doing to close up those holes so that you can eliminate this misalignment that creates these problems. And then I also want to challenge you too. I want you to take all the things that are driving you nuts, right? And let's be honest, the things that are driving us nuts are not the things that people think they are, right? So it's not, oh, I gotta get started on a master schedule. Oh, I'm behind on my evaluations. I mean, those things they may create a little stress, but they're not keeping you up at night. You know what's keeping us up at night? I got this teacher who is so nasty, and no matter what I do, they're just mean. They're nasty. They're stirring up other people. They won't talk to me about it, right? They smile in my face, but I know they're talking about me behind my back. You know what keeps us up at night? I've got this teacher and I've gone in and I've done everything I know to do, and they are still not improving. You know what's keeping us up at night? I've got a team. They're nice. They want to do the right thing, but I've bought a system. I've taken them to the training and they're still not getting it. You know what keeps us up at night? I've got a culture that is toxic. I inherited it. I'm trying to fix it. But right now, I just can't stand working here with these people, if I'm being really honest, because it is so draining. Maybe I need to go to another school. You know what's keeping us up at night? I don't care what happens when I get people started in the staff meeting. Everybody's like, okay, but then when I go into classrooms, I don't see people doing the work. And I keep, giving them feedback, and they're like, yeah. And then they still don't do the work. And nobody is taking accountability for doing this work. That's what keeps us up at night. And on Monday, we're going to be addressing those things that keep us up at night. On Monday, we're going to be looking at how we solve that and what systems we put in place so that we're not dealing with those problems. And instead, we can focus on doing the work we really want to do to change lives, to make students' lives better, to make a difference like a builder. I'll talk to you next time, and I hope I see you on Monday. Hey, if you're ready to get started being a builder right away, then I want to invite you to join us at Buildership University. It's our exclusive online community for builders just like you, where you'll be able to get the exact training that you need to turn your school into a success story right now with the people and resources you already have. Inside, you'll find our best online courses, live trainings with me, tons of resources, templates, and exemplars, and monthly live office hours with me, where you can ask me anything and get my help on whatever challenge you're facing right now. If you're tired of hitting obstacle after obstacle and you're sick of tiny little incremental gains each year, if you're ready to make a dramatic difference in your school right now, then you need to join Buildership University. Just go to buildershipuniversity.com and get started writing your school success story today.